Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. Osun Election Petition Tribunal is set to deliver judgment on the July 16th governorship election. 37 persons have been buried following a bomb blast in Doma local government area of Nasarawa State. On the foreign scene, rebel police officers riot in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, over the killing of more than a dozen colleagues. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I am Okbayemuni. Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal is delivering judgment on the petition challenging the declaration of Governor Ademola Adeleke as the winner of the July 16th governorship election. Former Governor Wega Itola and his party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, filed the petition against Governor Adeleke, his party, People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Electoral Commission, INEC. The three-member panel, chaired by Justice Tetsi Kume, started hearing the election petition in August 2022. Earlier, the Osun State Police Command said it would not tolerate any act capable of causing a crisis in the state as the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal delivers its judgment. Ahead of the 2023 presidential election, the People's Democratic Party PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has promised a youth and women-inclusive government if elected as Nigeria's president next month. The former vice president made the promise yesterday at the party's campaign rally at Ebonyi Township Stadium in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State. He assured supporters that the next government of a PDP is going to be a government for the youth and for the women. Mr. Atiku expressed confidence that the party would win Ebonyi State, revealing that the state is a PDP state. He further disclosed that he was committed to power devolution as well as resource control and restructuring, adding that he knows all the southeastern states have been yearning for it.
And I am sure with what I have seen today, you will continue to be PDP. No be so? Young men and women, I want to assure you that the next government of PDP is going to be a government for the youth and for the women. Because you are a majority and we must recognize that and we must give you the opportunity so that you can also be able to be leaders of this country. So,
the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has lamented that the country is currently breeding poverty, hunger, and insecurity due to bad leadership. Instead of these are the presidential campaign rally, which was held at the hockey pitch of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Stadium, Bauchi State, yesterday. He recalled the efforts of Nigeria's former Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and Nnamdi Azikiwe in uniting the country and ensuring justice, peace, and fairness during their leadership. Mr. Obi, a former Anambra State governor, lamented the huge debt burden of the country, promising that under his leadership, things will be different. He noted that all the money that the country has borrowed, if it had been used the way Tafawa Balewa used the money borrowed, Nigeria would have been heaven today.
Once there was a united Nigeria, once there were peaceful Nigeria, Nigeria was a part of greatness from a preferred leader from Bauchi, Tafawa Balewa. In Bauchi we had a great leader who believes in progress of Nigeria. And I said it this morning, that Nigeria today is breeding poverty. People are poor in Nigeria. People are hungry. People are insecure. All the monies we borrowed, we have used it the way Tafawa Balewa used the money he borrowed. Nigeria would have been heaven today.
The presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, has accused the People's Democratic Party, PDP, of sabotaging fuel supply in the country to blackmail the federal government. Several parts of Nigeria are experiencing fuel scarcity, with queues snaking into streets in some areas. The price of the product has also jumped across the country, but Mr. Tinubu, during the APC presidential campaign rally in Makurdi, Benue State, pinned it on the main opposition party, accusing the PDP of creating queues for the product across Nigeria. He accused the party of developing poverty, stating that the PDP met a good account when coming into governance, but for 16 years they did not remember the gas pipelines. He also blamed the PDP of not fixing the country's power sector, claiming the party squandered resources meant to handle such. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says ascension to political offices does not empower incumbents to destroy the policies and programs of their predecessors. He said while it does not matter the party predecessor belonged to, new leaders should sustain the policies and projects of their predecessors, inasmuch as the programs are in the interest of the people. Mr. Obasanjo stated these are the International Conference on Deepening Democratic Culture and Institutions for Sustainable Development and Security in Nigeria in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State, yesterday. Also speaking at the event, the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, urged the Nigerians not to allow the 2023 general elections to fail, stating that allowing such failure will increase political polarization and set Nigeria's democracy backward. The governor noted that barely 1 month away, Nigerians are hoping and praying for the 2023 general elections to herald the deepening of democratic culture and rule of law and good governance in the country. And out of security matters, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule says 37 persons have so far been buried following a bomb blast in the Doma local government area of his state. The incident occurred earlier in the week in the Doma local government area of his state. Governor Sule, while giving an update about the incident and a news chat with Channels Television, said 37 persons were buried on Wednesday. He said he wouldn't be able to give the exact figures, but the 37 victims are the ones received from Doma local government yesterday. The Nasarawa State Police Command had earlier confirmed the death of 28 herdsmen and hundreds of their cattle in a bomb blast that occurred earlier in the week. But while the governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, has lost his eldest son, Hassan Sule, the governor's chief press secretary, Ibrahim Adra, disclosed this in a statement made available to newsmen in Lafia today. He revealed that the governor's son died in Lafia yesterday night. The deceased, who got married to his first wife, Ajia Sule, in June last year, died at the age of 36. Elsewhere, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has rearrested the former registrar of a Joint Admission and Matriculations Board, JAMB, Professor Adedibu Ojeride. In a statement, the anti-corruption agency spokesperson, Azuka Ogugua, revealed that he was arrested yesterday in Abuja. She said he is expected to face a team of investigators over new evidence uncovered in relation to his ongoing trial for diversion of funds while he was a public officer. According to her, ICPC operatives uncovered 2 accounts opened in the names of Trillium Learning Center Limited and Sapati International Schools Limited, into which funds were diverted using fictitious names of students. She revealed that the commission had, on the 12th December 2022, invited the former JAMB registrar for questioning over the new evidence, but he wrote through his solicitor requesting a 14 days grace to enable him honor the invitation. She, however, noted that Mr. Ojeride refused to honor the invitation as undertaken by his counsel after the expiration of a 14 days grace. Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Pantami, says the federal government has no plans to strip the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, of its powers. Professor Pantami said this in his presentation at the 19th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's scorecard from 2015 to 2023 in Abuja. The minister in his presentation said there was no iota of truth in insinuations that the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITSA, was designed to take the powers of NCC. It said that both the NCC Act 2003 and the NITDA Act 2007 were obsolete and long overdue for review due to imperatives of new technologies, as old acts did not address the fourth industrial revolution and emerging technologies. Professor Pantami also said he stood his ground for the Nigerian Postal Service, NIPOST, over stamp duty issues. He also said the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, was able to capture NIN of over 95 million citizens on its database within 2 years.
Today they don't have even 4G in their NCA Act 2003 because the Act is 20 years old. NIDA Act today is 15 to 16 years old. So if you look at it, all the advancement we are talking about, artificial intelligence is their mandate, not in the Act. Robotic is their mandate, not in the Act. Fourth Industrial Revolution, not in the Act, and is their mandate. Cloud computing is their mandate, not in the Act. Many of them are not. So we had an agreement. Then I formalized in writing that both of them should commence the process of amending their act to ensure that they cover the new advancement within their own subsector.
The news just reaching us now says the Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, has obtained the victory of Governor Ademola Adeleke at the July 16, 2022 governorship polls. The three-man panel led by Justice Tetsia Kume gave this judgment today. He held that after deducting invalid votes, Adegboyega Oyetola scored 314,931, while Ademola Adeleke scored 290,266 for second votes. The tribunal held that the election not conducted in compliance to the Electoral Act. It said the INEC actions amounted to tampering with official records. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything and nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adefila and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Back on Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of our stories. In Osun State, the family of a 28-year-old tailor, Nuruddin Quadri, have accused officers attached to the Osun State Police Anti-Cultism Squad of killing him during a raid on his home around 2 a.m. on Wednesday. It was alleged that the victim was shot several times in the chest during the incident, while the family told Western Spring Television News that the police later went away with his body.
28-year-old Taylor was said to be asleep when officers attached to Osun State Police Anti-Cultism Squad conducted a raid on his home around 2 a.m. on Wednesday. Western Spring Television News gathered that the police broke into Nuruddin's home at Jalayemi Street in the presence of his wife and an 8-month-old baby. According to Mumin Oyetola, under whom Nuruddin enrolled as an apprentice, the young man was shot in the chest and died on the spot while trying to run for his life when the police entered his room. According to neighbors, the police officers in mufti with face covers broke into the 16-room building and were trying to force entry into every room in the house while looking for the deceased. Nuruddin's wife, Miriam Iwaloye, said her late husband had to jump through the window due to various cases of police harassment in the past. The visibly distraught woman called for justice and demanded the release of her late husband's corpse.
wọ́n lọ sọ́dọ̀ landlord wa wọ́n kàn lè kọ́ landlord jáde wọ́n ta lè ń béèrè wọ́n ní alówó ńlé bí landlord ṣe ní yàrá rẹ̀ náà nìyí wọ́n àti àti jẹ́ kí grandma sọ pé yàrá rẹ̀ ní báyìí wọ́n ti fi ẹsẹ̀ gbá ilẹ̀kùn mo ṣàjẹ́ ọkọ mi lójú oorun mo lọ sí ìfẹsẹ̀ gbálẹ̀kùn ló ti sáré dìde mo sì fẹsẹ̀ gbálẹ̀kùn bó ṣe ṣí tó ṣe ṣí báyìí bó ṣe rí ọba yìí bó ṣe òwò tàwọn ní shooting.
Tàbẹ̀ ìjọba Isiaka Adeleke kí wọ́n jọ kan bá wa gbé ìgbésẹ̀ tó tọ́ àti tó yẹ a sì bẹ̀ Chief Justice náà káwọn náà bá wa gbé ìgbésẹ̀ tó tọ́ àti tó yẹ kí ìdájọ́ òdodo kó lè wáyé lórí ọ̀rọ̀ Quadri Nuruddin tí ó jẹ́ ọmọọṣẹ́ mi ẹ jọ̀ọ́ gbogbo wa ò ní ṣe òfò ọmọ.
Nuruddin's landlady, who identified herself as Mrs. Rashidat Ajibola, said the officers broke the entrance door and were forcing entry into every room, adding that they left the scene after the shootings but came back later to carry the corpse. Mrs. Ajibola described the deceased as an easygoing young man who had lived in the house for the past 3 years.
Pavement kan sì wà ńbẹ̀ yẹn ibẹ̀ ló bọ́ sí mo á rò pé bó ṣe bọ́ síbẹ̀ kó mọ̀ sọ̀kalẹ̀ lọ bí wọ́n ṣe pàdé rẹ̀ ni iṣẹ́ tó yẹ kí wọ́n fi mú lọ́wọ́ wọ́n kò gbébọn fún ní igbá àyà ni bí wọ́n ṣe wá gbébọn fún ní igbá àyà ó ṣàjàporó ibẹ̀ yẹn ni wọ́n ti fún ní ìbọn ọ̀tá àbọ̀gàn káyé pé wíńdò níbẹ̀ yẹn kò sí blẹ́ẹ̀tì yẹn ò bá tún wọlé lọ pa ẹlòmíràn nínú ilé tó ró bu àgànná so gbà wọ́n wá tún mú dé ibi ẹgbẹ́ convert níbi kọ́tà bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ibẹ̀ mo ṣá rò pé ó ṣubú sí gbà wọ́n wá wò pé kò tún lọ wọ́n tún fún ní ìbọn míì láyà ó ṣàjẹ́ ọ̀nà méjì tí wọ́n ti fi níbọn wọ́n dẹ̀ dúró títí tó fi kú.
However, while confirming that there was a police raid on the building on the said day, police spokesperson in Osun State, Yemisi Okpalala, insisted that the victim was an armed robber. While speaking on Frank Talk, a Rave FM news interview program, SP Okpalala refused to confirm if the deceased was killed by the police officers who conducted the raid.
Ìgbà tó di ipò ń jẹ́wọ́ ló ń sọ pé òun mú yẹn lọ sí ilé oníkálukú wọn ló fi délé rẹ̀ ó ní pé òun ò tiẹ̀ mọ̀ orí òkè gan ló ń gbé màmá tó wá sọ̀rọ̀ yẹn ló ló ń bi léèrè wípé níbo ni yàrá lówó ní lọ́sọ̀pá òun náà ló fèsì òun yìí látòrí pẹ̀tẹ́ẹ̀sì lọ́mọ lówó níyẹn ló ti sá bíyàwó ẹ̀ ṣe sílẹ̀ tó báyìí ló ti sá tó ń gangan sá ló ti bẹ́ sílẹ̀ látòrí pẹ̀tẹ́ẹ̀sì o èmi ò mọ̀ ń pa àpọn yíyìn yẹn mi ò mọ̀ ń pa àpọn yíyìn rárá.
This latest incident adds to the growing list of alleged extrajudicial killings of people by the police in Osun State. The family of 28-year-old Nuruddin Quadri and the general public expect that proper investigations are carried out to ensure the truth about this unfortunate incident is laid bare and the culprits are brought to justice.
Protest marks the first day of President Muhammadu Buhari's two-day official visit to his home state, Katsina, where he inaugurated some projects executed by the state government. The youth staged the protest a few minutes after noon, shortly after the president inaugurated the Kofar Kaura underpass in Katsina, decrying the hardship in the country. The protesters caused a commotion at the Kofar Kaura underpass, where they threw stones at the crowd after President Buhari left the area. A viral video showed a mass of youths violently denouncing the government as they engaged some policemen on the road. The development is coming 72 hours after the presidential standard bearer of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, was stoned by suspected hoodlums at a campaign rally in the state. In business, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has threatened to issue a warrant of arrest on the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, and some bank directors over their collective refusal to honor an invite by the Green Chamber over the scarcity of 3 newly designed Naira notes. The House had summoned the CBN Governor and bank directors over the January 31, 2023 deadline for the validity of old 200 Naira, 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes, but the bank chiefs refused to heed the invitation by the Green Chamber. Mr. Gbajabiamila, in a statement yesterday, said the bank chiefs, by shunning the invitation of the House, insulted the authority and prerogatives of the People's Parliament. Although the Speaker said the warrant to be issued will be against the CBN and bank directors, but did not expressly mention Emefiele, the House had at different times in the last 2 months summoned the CBN Governor over the Naira redesign, but the invitation was not honored. The federal government has restated its commitment to make Ekiti State a major free trade zone in Nigeria. The government said this would support the state in delivering economic and knowledge-free zone where education-based industries and technological companies could operate. The managing director of the Nigeria Export Processing Zone Authority, Professor Adesoji Adeshuba, stated this during a courtesy visit to the state governor, Biodun Yebanji, in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital, yesterday. Adeshuba said the establishment of an economic zone would boost the economy of the state and increase its internally generated revenue, as well as reduce over-reliance on federal allocation. On the foreign scene, rebel police officers are routed in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, in protest at killing of more than a dozen colleagues by criminal gangs. The routing officers blamed the government for not taking action. More than 100 demonstrators blocked streets, burnt tires, broke security cameras, and damaged vehicles. Local media said several officers broke through the gates of the Prime Minister's residence and attempted to enter Haiti's international airport. The National Union of Haitian Police Officers said 14 men have been killed since the start of the year in various gang attacks on police stations. According to Haiti's National Police, 7 officers were killed in shootout on Wednesday alone. The United States says its special forces have killed a senior figure in the Islamic State group in Somalia, along with 10 of his associates. Bilal al-Sudari is alleged to have been a key figure in the funding and expansion of the Islamist militant group across Africa and beyond. Officials say he was killed during a gunfight after troops raided a remote mountainous cave complex in northern Somalia, hoping to capture him. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said no civilians were harmed in what he described as a successful counterterrorism operation. In the United States, President Joe Biden is urging protests in Tennessee to remain peaceful. As officials plan to release video of an arrest that led to a motorist death. 5 Memphis police officers have been fired and are facing murder charges after 29-year-old Tyre Nichols died 3 days after a traffic stop on the 7th of January. Body cam footage of the encounter is expected to be made public later today. Lawyers for the Nichols family said it will show him being severely beaten. After reviewing the footage, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Director David Roush described the officers' action as absolutely appalling. The city of Memphis is reported to be on edge, and police have stepped up patrols there as they prepare for possible demonstrations.
It's going to be horrific.
My Lord, my Lord.
I didn't see it, but from what I hear, it's going to be horrific. But I want each and every one of you to protest in peace. I don't want us burning up our cities, tearing up the streets, because that's not what my son stood for.
Now the sports stories. Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas has another chance to land his first Grand Slam title after reaching the Australian Open final by beating Russian Karen Khachanov in the Melbourne last fall. Third seed Tsitsipas won 7-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-3 against Khachanov, who was going for a maiden major final. Tsitsipas lost to Novak Djokovic in the 2021 French Open final and might have the chance to avenge that loss. Sebas Djokovic plays American Tommy Paul in Friday's other semi-final.
Extraordinary point.
Now to football. Real Madrid beat City rivals Atletico Madrid after extra time to advance to the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey. Atletico took the lead with Alvaro Morata scoring from close range following Manuel Molina's low cross. Real were 11 minutes from going out but equalized when Rodrigo beat 3 players and scored a wonderful goal. Atletico's Steven Savic was sent off for 2 bookable offences before Karim Benzema put Real ahead in the 104th minute with Vinicius Jr. adding a third. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Osogbo has declared Governor Adegboyega Oyetola as the winner of the July 16, 2022 governorship election. Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule says 37 persons have so far been buried following a bomb blast in the Doma local government area of the state. On the foreign scene, rebel police officers have rioted in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, in protest at the killing of more than a dozen colleagues by criminal gangs. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends the news at 12. I am Okwayemioni. Thanks for watching.